How is it going on, everybody? Welcome to the Paws podcast. We're now at episode 114. And Kevin, it feels like the last few episodes we've had, it's been a different sport after a different sport after a different sport. And now we're getting back to volleyball with none other than the brand new head coach of the indoor volleyball program, Flavia Siqueira. How are you doing? Welcome to FIU. Welcome to the 305, and we hope the chilliness in the air at the time of recording is it's not too shocking for you.
No. Thank you so much, guys, for having me. Super excited to be here at FIU and in beautiful Miami for sure. And this is just a day. It's just a moment.
No, but it's great to talk to you. Obviously, FIU women's volleyball had a pretty great season last year, but now you're coming in looking to hopefully get the Panthers to that Conference USA championship game, running it back, as they would say. But we got to talk about how you, before you even got to this point, right? So from being from the great nation of Brazil, just talk a bit about growing up there and where the love for sports, volleyball in your case, came from.
Definitely. Brazil is well known for the passion, that we have for volleyball. And growing up playing at a well-known club gave me the opportunity of watching the professionals, play. And my godmother was a professional player as well. So I grew up in the gym and fell in love with the sport very young. Yeah. Took advantage of what it gave me, the foundation that it provided me, while playing club in Brazil, and took an opportunity to come to the United States as a student athlete. Fell in love with the U.S. and the opportunities it gave me, and been here since.
That's awesome. Now, I'm curious. It's not often we get the chance to talk to somebody from Brazil, specifically about the sports scene there. So I just want to know, how would you compare and contrast volleyball and the overall sports scene in Brazil to the United States from the perspective of having played the sport in both Brazil and here in the U.S.?
It has changed, of course, especially at the national level, right? Especially at the Olympic level. There's so much that drastically has changed with the teams and how we compete. But if there's one thing I would tell you that hasn't really changed, my opinion, is Brazilians are more passionate about the game, regardless of what it provides you. If there's money involved or not, it's just anytime you get on the court, it's the win. We play more of a type of a free street ball, okay, a lot of more creativity. Whereas in the U.S., you have a reason to play, either it's club or high school or college. Of course, now you add in the professional league, but it's more disciplined than we play at home. So different styles. I'm not saying that there's no passion here. It's just the way that that's presented on the court is a bit different.
So after moving to the U.S., you're in quite a few accolades at both Western Nebraska Community College and the University of Mary. But at what point did you decide to start pursuing coaching, coaching volleyball instead of actually pursuing the playing side of it?
It's just thrown out at me. So I was planning on playing professionally. That was my dream right after college. And I ended up having several back injuries and could not play anymore. Had to have surgeries and wanted to stay involved. And actually my former coach looked at me and said, "Why not coach?" And I said, "No, I don't have the patience. I don't want to do this. No, I want to play." But it was the only way to continue to be involved in the sport that I love. So went from a college player to college coach in basically 3 months, and been doing since. Yeah.
So you began your coaching career in 2007 at the University of Southwest. Just looking from then to now, just talk about some of your favorite memories, what you learned about being a coach, moving up the ranks, from high school, the JUCO level, Division II, now here at Division I.
Each division has taught me a lot, especially appreciation, because you start from nothing at the JUCO level sometimes and NAIA level, where you have to wear several hats as a head coach. You have to be your own compliance, you have to be your own assistant, you have to be the bus driver. And I went through a lot of different scenarios throughout my career, but I definitely enjoy it, every single one of them. And I think, again, I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't start my career knowing that now I'm a Division I coach at the Division I level. I wouldn't. I would have done similar path. I would have taken a similar path just to appreciate what I have now and to be able to share that with the student athletes as well. I think there are times that we miss that appreciation for what we're given. Enjoyed very much coaching junior college. People always ask me, what's your favorite? I would say if I had to stop coaching today, JUCO was my favorite. I think the student athlete has a different perspective of, oh my gosh, I have to do so well in 2 years to continue to play. So the way that they see the opportunity to play for 1 or 2 years is different than sometimes where you're in a Ford school, where you go, oh, I still have 3 more years. I get to play 4 more years. So that, that guarantee doesn't happen in JUCO. So I enjoyed, the years that I spent. And of course, I coached in Florida throughout my career as a junior college coach and played against some amazing teams and had a lot of fun. So I would say that was the path I took. And I've enjoyed, again, every single level. And now the Division I, it doesn't change. It's just a different way to coach.
Dan, do you miss having to drive buses? I don't know. It kind of sounds like it would be fun. I'm not sure. Obviously, I'm assuming you don't have to do that anymore.
No, that was Southwest. So the University of Southwest, that's where I had to do it. So when I got my second job, it was definitely one of the first questions I asked. I don't really care about the pay, but do I drive the bus? Because that was tough and never had to do it again. So I'm happy about that.
All right, we'll talk a bit about your time in your prior stop at Georgia State and how you were pretty much able to turn around that program as quickly as it did. I mean, did it surprise even you that the Panthers had instant success under your guidance? It felt like you reached new heights that program had not seen for a while, almost immediately.
It's tough to talk about it because I think we don't want to be surprised when you put the work into it. We were definitely humbled and happy about the results that we had as staff, as athletes. That's, one thing I always want to make sure that we know it takes work, but let's be humble about what happens throughout that process. Trust the process. I felt very comfortable, going to Georgia State with the base that I had. I had 5 student athletes that came with me that were former players that played for me at AUM or were recruited to play. So I knew that we had a good foundation to start off with. And I think that culture that they brought in made a huge difference in how we played. And so I don't want to say, again, surprised. I definitely want to say thankful. And it was I think 2 great years that we had over there.
Now, I have a quick follow-up to that. It's a pretty funny follow-up. I know your time at Georgia State sort of interlocked with Tyler Gallo's time at Georgia Southern, who obviously is now your SID at volleyball. When you were at Georgia State, did you have any recollections of Tyler? Did you ever meet him, or was it kind of a shock to hear him say, hey, I came from Georgia Southern, which is obviously your biggest rival at Georgia State?
Never met him. He brought that up in one of our conversations. And I looked at him and I said, I'm okay talking to you now. It's okay.
The rivalry runs deep, though.
Yeah, it's always been great. Of course, once I got there, I wasn't sure, but you can feel it the moment you walk into, any of the gyms at home or at Southern, that rivalry does exist. And it's definitely fun. It's a great team to play. They've been so successful and it elevates the conference for sure.
Yeah. We know this Georgia State pod. They always talk about Georgia Southern like it's Ohio State, Michigan, like it's on that level of hatred. So, okay, Flavia, let's now get into the FIU Panthers, not the Georgia State Panthers. I got to know how and when FIU approached you about this opportunity to coach here in the 305, and what ultimately made you pull the trigger on the 305, especially considering what you were already accomplishing at Georgia State.
So the conversations that I've had with my agent was always just about my love for Florida, right? So regardless of the level of coaching, if there's ever an opportunity to come back, and there has been in the past few years, but nothing really attracted me as much as FIU did. So when FIU opened up, I got a call and the process started. It was a very fast process. Everything was done within a week or 2 max. So Julie called and we had a very good conversation, ended up coming to meet with her personally and meet some other staff members. Fell in love with FIU in a different note. I've been to campus before, of course, just as a visitor, and I knew how beautiful the area was. But fell in love with the vision that, the administration had for not only the volleyball program, for all the sports. I've heard from other coaches that Scott had brought in a different vision and a big plan for how the athletic department, is going to continue to succeed in all areas, but also learning more about the academic piece, how many majors it's been offered and how much the student athlete experience can be enhanced by being an FIU overall. Then it was a very good, honest conversation about the program. Yes, we understand last year was extremely successful and we were so close to accomplish something that was very unique. However, we also understand that the battles that we've faced in the last 10 years, right? So it wasn't something we just sat down and say, oh my gosh, we're in heaven. Let's see what happens next year. No, there's a pattern to it. There's a path to it. And the challenge for me was rebuilding programs, something I've done in the past, take them from, the bottom and help them find, a better way, leave them on a better note. Here, having a year as last year so successful, for me personally as a coach, that's a different challenge. And it was intriguing to me. It was, I enjoy challenges. And for me, it was a good one to be put on and be faced. So understanding, again, where we stand as a team, where we stand as administration, we stand with staff is very important for me. And FIU being in a beautiful area, of course, great conference, and offering the academics was just, a not very hard decision to make. It was hard to leave Georgia State because of the athletes that I've recruited. We created a great culture there, a great bond with, the kids. My staff was very important to me as well, and that was hard to leave. I think they were a huge part of what you accomplish in 2 years. To me, it's not about the head coach. To me, it takes a village, and my coaches and my players made a huge difference. And I'm looking forward to building that as well at FIU with a great staff, and also, pick and choosing the right student athlete, not only talented athletes. Sometimes that's not the case for me. It's those that are going to be, excited about being an FIU and help us develop this program.
You kind of mentioned it. You've been in Florida before. Just what were your initial thoughts on the campus, the facilities, when you got that first tour of FIU?
So regardless of where I lived in the last 10 years, every time I got to Florida, which I come quite often, I used to come almost every 2 or 3 months just for the weekend. The palm trees, get to me every time. And Julie did very well. She picked me up right away. The first thing she did, she took me around the campus for a good 20 minutes, showed me around, and family love, with the scenario, of course. And it was a beautiful night, and you can see the campus both ways. And I think that's just amazing. You can see how alive it is during the day with the palm trees and the sun, and how beautiful and colorful it is at night when everything calms down. So that wasn't a hard sell, Kevin.
You kind of mentioned it a little bit with the academics. Just how important is that for you to make sure that your students are having the best experience as an athlete, but also, it's student athlete. The student part of it does come first.
Of course. I think there are a lot of things why student athletes, decide to play. Some of them want to play volleyball, and the only way to play is to study. Some of them want to get an academic scholarship, or they want to be successful with their degree, and the bonus is to play volleyball. So regardless of the goal that the athlete has, I think we got to be able to meet it and with high standards and expectations for the entire team. So every team I've coached always had a goal of a 3.5 GPA. Been very successful in every single school I've coached to achieve that. And how does that happen? Well, of course, the student athlete has to put on the work, but also with the academic advisors being, close to the team and working very well with the staff. I think it's huge. And I know here at FIU that was provided. It was mentioned several times as well during my interview that is something that they're proud of, how much, they work with the athlete, how much they understand the difficulties of missing sometimes class because of the travel schedule, but also, working side to side on making sure that happens. So, exciting, as I said. I understand some majors are harder than the others, and then there are going to be moments here and there. But it is my job as a coach to sit down with each athlete and also explain to them it is doable. In my opinion, you want to go to med school, it is doable. You got to make it work. Time management, and communication and everything else. So I'm not opposed to having anyone, decide on a major that early. FIU has plenty of offers as long as it's the right one. And so, yeah, very important for me.
Well, that's great to hear. I know FIU athletics pride themselves on having solid cumulative GPAs across all their athletic programs. Flavia, you've been awesome. I think it's time to take a quick break to take a look at what the hell is going on in the world of FIU athletics when this episode drops. So let's take a quick look around FIU athletics, who to watch from the 305. And we have three sports busy right now, so let's get right into it. Starting off with men's basketball, who is going to be in the midst of a road trip against Middle Tennessee, then Western Kentucky. It's the 100 Miles of Hate rivalry, of course. Those will be on the 4th and the 7th, specifically on the road. Now, if you want to know when the next home game is for FIU men's basketball, that's not going to be for a while until Thursday, February the 12th at against Delaware at the OBCC. That's at 7 o'clock. All those games, regardless, can be seen on ESPN+. Next up is women's basketball, who later tonight, you can head over to ESPN Plus and watch them take on Liberty at 7 o'clock over at Lynchburg, Virginia. They're then going to be in Delaware for a part of a 2-game road trip before heading back for a doubleheader at the OBCC against, conveniently enough, Western Kentucky and Middle Tennessee on February the 5th and February the 7th at 7 o'clock and 1 o'clock, respectively. And again, all those games can be seen on ESPN Plus. And then you have swim and dive, who we talked about, getting ready for the latter end of the regular season, moving on to the championships. You have Florida Atlantic at Saturday, January the 31st at 10 a.m. in Boca Raton. Then the first chance meet later on in Coral Gables against the University of Miami on February the 13th. So that's a pretty brief look around FIU athletics. Kevin, I can't wait until when we do the next FIU athletics. We'll probably get to talk about baseball a little bit, mention opening day, because that'll be around the corner from here, which I know gets you excited, Kev. So
100%. Yeah.
Flavia, let's get back into the swing of things here, talking a bit about the future of FIU volleyball. You're taking over a program that was so close to winning the CUSA championship last season. Now, from what you've been able to see from the squad, talk about what excites you the most about the program and the expectations that you've already placed on the 2026 iteration of the team.
As we mentioned before, I think each year, each class, each team brings something different to the plate, right? So It's great to have that expectations. It's great to understand what was done in the past and how close, FIU was, but also living in the moment and understand what's going to take to continue in that path. I think hard work is going to have to, be our number one priority while rebuilding the squad. If you think about it, if you look at what happened with the team, a lot of, outstanding players, those that made, in my opinion, a successful season happen are no longer here. The majority have either graduated or entered the portal prior to my arrival. So what does that do to the program? Well, we got a foundation, right? We were close, but at the same time, it is a rebuilding year, as far as the squad goes. Bringing in student athletes at, January for volleyball, it's kind of hard. However, it's not impossible. It's our job as staff to make sure that we're doing our homework. We're getting to, the right kids, the right student athletes that are still available. Make sure we use the local athletes that we can find, because Miami, South Florida has great talent as well. Hit the transfer portal towards the end again. There's a lot to be done, but it's exciting. I think regardless of who we're going to have on the squad, as a coach, I understand my job is to make them better and to have them believe in what we're trying to do. And that to me is exciting regardless of who stays or who goes. We're looking for the right people that want to come to FIU to play volleyball and get education, and not that want to come to Miami first. I think that's one thing I'm going to emphasize regardless of who we recruit. Coming to Miami is a bonus. FIU being a beautiful place, location is a bonus. It should not be your priority. I think that's something that has been happened previously, and then it's okay if, make mistake here and there with an athlete, but we're being very cautious, Hen and I, with the type of athlete that we want to bring in.
Without a doubt. Now, to sort of put an idea of where the program is at right now, what would you say are some of the biggest similarities and differences between things like, NIL, facilities, recruiting, even overall culture here at FIU compared to some of your most recent stops like Georgia State? I'd even go so far as to mention spots like Auburn, Montgomery, and even Lynn.
Each school presents its challenges. It's hard to touch base because I've been here only for a week and a half, so I can't really talk about that. But one thing I would say for me is probably the biggest difference is going to be the facility, right? At Georgia State, we were very, very, very fortunate to have our own volleyball arena, and we didn't have to share the court with anyone. So individual practices or changing practice times and things like that were okay. We're able to accommodate a lot of things because of our own facility. And here I understand we share with, men's and women's basketball, so we have to work around their schedule as well, especially now when they're in season. So that's one of the new things for me. It's going to be challenging. I would say the travel schedule as well, based on what I've learned. A lot of the travel that we do is just flying everywhere, whereas in Georgia, we were able to actually drive and take the bus to several of the locations. So planning ahead, it's going to be a bit different. But the recruiting piece, I don't think it changes. Georgia had great, things to offer, as did Auburn Montgomery, as did Lynn. I think you just got to find the right athlete that's looking for what the institution offers. Will be no different in FIU.
So one of your returners is going to be Jillian Huckabee. Had a great season last year. Just talk a little bit about her. What excites you about having her kind of be the main piece of this 2026, 2027 roster?
Sure.
And she's a Paws Up podcast legend.
I've watched, of course, before I got here, watched some other matches last year, was able to see, the student athletes that were playing and read their stats. Also talked to Coach Hannon about, her vision and what she remembers from the season, her perspective about each athlete. There were only positive things to be said about Jill. And I'm excited, to have her as one of the returners and probably one of the leaders on this team. Had a chance of talking to her only twice so far. We had, one session where we talked on the volleyball court, and one time we talked in the office. But seems to be a very mature young lady who has a vision for the program and for herself. She has personal goals that she wants to accomplish, and I respect that very much. But she also sees what the program can, continue to do. So excited to have her on board and share with her the next year.
You kind of alluded to this a little bit, but now obviously you're trying to get players, bringing them in, recruiting, portal, all that stuff. Just what are you trying to find in players? What do you look for? What are your non-negotiables when you try to bring in some new players into the 305?
Very interesting. Non-negotiable to me is discipline. And what does that mean? It depends. It's got to be taught as well. It's got to be conversed about, it's got to be discussed. But there are certain things that, to me, a disciplined student athlete will go a long ways compared to a very talented one. So also passionate. Not everybody has to be as passionate as I am about volleyball. I love the sport sometimes way too much. But you got to enjoy what you're doing. Not do it because I have a scholarship, or not do it because my parents spent so much money in club and now I have to play volleyball. Find what your passion is and let's utilize that on the court, because then it makes my job easier. If you're passionate and I am, we both go to work and have fun during practice and we get better. And also respect. So if I were to give you three things: the discipline, the passion, the respect for the sport, the respect for each other's differences, the respect for the institution and the name that you carry everywhere you go. So those three are non-negotiable to me.
Well said there. Well, you mentioned Conference USA and how spread out it is. No argument for me there, but I mean, looking at the state of CUSA volleyball entering this upcoming season, you have Louisiana Tech and UTEP heading out. I'm meaning fewer teams, but there's still plenty of talent all over. What's your take on this conference and what you really see from it?
Still learning about the conference, because also I believe there are some changes that are going to happen to the teams that you've just mentioned. I'm not sure if they are leaving yet. So there's some rumors that for volleyball we're not going to get our final schedule until April. So we're not sure who stays and who goes. But overall, definitely it's a conference that, bounces. It moves every year. You feel like this team is always on the top one or two. And then one that was on the bottom, now it's in the middle, catching on that third spot or so. So I think it's a conference that doesn't matter who you play. You got to be aware of, it's going to be a good competition. And for me, again, each team is going to be treated with respect and we're going to treat everybody the same, regardless of where they stood last year, or where they're going to stand in the rankings next year. Each team is going to present some type of challenge. So it's exciting to know it's a tough conference, and we're a part of it.
All right, Flavia, you've been awesome so far. Let's start to close up shop here with a couple of rapid-fire questions here. I need you to put us on some Brazilian food. What do we got to know? What's the go-to cuisine? And so far, have you found a spot here in Miami that even remotely matches what you had in Brazil?
Listen.
Yes.
Brazilian cuisine, if you just want to get something very quick, you got to go with your pão de queijo. That's your little cheese bread and coffee. That is probably one of the best things that we have. And if you're looking for that big meal, too many options, but you can't go wrong with your rice and beans and your steak. That is for sure a Brazilian traditional meal. I'm sure I'll find places in Miami. I mean, and I love Cuban cuisine. I love Mexican cuisine, and I love, all types of food. So for me, I'm sitting in a very good spot right now.
I don't know how many of these uniforms at FIU you're very familiar with the volleyball team, but if you are, which one so far is the one that's caught your eye the most? Which one have you, and which one would you say is your favorite at the moment? There's a lot of choices. FIU loves their branding. They love the uniforms. They love all that stuff.
Kevin, and it doesn't matter what you're going to ask me. If there's a black uniform, it's always going to be my choice.
All right, there we go. The Vice is right there.
Yeah.
There we go.
All righty. Who were some of your favorite volleyball players growing up that sort of helped mold you as a player?
I would say Mireia Luis, Cuban, probably one of the best players in the world, that I was able to watch growing up. Goncharova from Russia, very unique type of player. Enjoyed her very much. And if we were to pick somebody in Brazil, I would say it would have been the middle blocker, Ana Flavia, not only because of the name, but I chose my jersey number back in high school because of her. So I've had different role models, of course, that I grew up watching. And nowadays even, I still love volleyball. I watch all the professional leagues. I've traveled around the world to watch volleyball. It's one of my favorite things to do. So I do have, some professional friends that I've not only love spending time with, but also continue to watch and, appreciate what they do.
All right, Flavia, you've been an awesome guest. We only have one more thing to ask you real quick, and this is up to you. If you have anything you'd like to say to the fans, to FIU, Panther Nation, anybody in particular, the floor is now yours.
That's awesome. No, definitely I want to say thank you to the administration for the opportunity to work, at FIU and to help develop this program. I want to say thank you to the student athletes who are going to continue this journey with us. Thank you for those who are already accepting, the offer to come and help us continue to build this program. And to the city of Miami for welcoming back. Love being here and excited to continue to rebuild the relationships with the local clubs and the youth around the area. Thank to my wife for allowing me to pack and move in a week. And I guess to my assistant coaches who are going to join me right now, Hen and Camilo, excited to have everyone on board and start a new journey together. It's going to be a fun one.
All right. Well said there. So again, Flavia, thank you so much. And of course, best of luck. Yeah, best of luck to the volleyball team. Obviously, like you said, schedule release is going to be around April. It's going to be a great one. Kevin, 115 up in the air. I think we both know who we need to get on, but that's going to be a story for another day. Maybe even Kevin doesn't know, but
I don't know, to be honest with you. No, I do not.
Okay, well, listen, I got ideas. That's all you need to know. So for Kevin, for Flavia, for everybody, thank you all so much for watching. And until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome!